This episode is brought to you by Orbit Gum. Do you feel the excitement on campus? The semester has started. Whether you're a freshman or senior, your ding needs to be on point. You never know who you might meet. With Orbit, it's your time to shine. Have the confidence to meet new friends, try new things, and create memories that'll last a lifetime. This semester, do what makes you ding with Orbit Gum.
Welcome into the latest episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of minor league baseball. It's a throwback show this week. Just myself, Tyler Mon, and one Sam Dykstra in New York City at MLB HQ. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Tyler. Yeah, I was the one on mini vacation last week. Went up to go see our good friend, Josh Jackson.
You saw our good pal, Josh Jackson. I got a video from Josh on a hike. It looked like a beautiful trail behind him. Then all of a sudden I see this shadowy figure moving into frame. And I thought, I recognize that walk. And it
was Bigfoot
in the back.
And then I walked behind Bigfoot.
The best thing was, though, you stopped and you kind of looked and saw that Josh had his phone out and you just gave this very nice wave. Like, I think you were like, what is Josh doing?
I thought he was filming forward. And then I saw my figure move in his camera. I'm like, oh, this is facing this way. Okay, cool.
The guy you're hanging out with Sam. It seems like it was a good few days.
It was awesome. I love seeing Josh, whenever I can. Wanted to go up there just mostly for the nature of Maine. Josh, on his Instagram posts enough about it that was just basically like a Maine tourism board Instagram page.
Yeah.
So I was like, I got to get me some Maine in my life. I know a few other people up that way, so it was great to check in with them. But yeah, spending the whole day with Josh and talking about various things about life, our jobs, about baseball. It was great. Highly recommend Maine. Highly recommend Josh Jackson if he's available.
Yeah, man. If you get a chance to be friends with Josh Jackson, highest recommendation.
Yes,
it's pretty great.
Yeah. So yeah, I was out last week. Ben was the one who posted the pod, and now Ben is out on vacation with his family. So it's just me and you, Tyler.
It is. It's just the two of us. I actually I'm leaving town tomorrow, not for vacation, but Home Run Derby X arrives in Fredericksburg, Virginia. If you are a Fred Nats fan or you are in the local Fred Nats area, I think we still have some tickets available for Home Run Derby X, which is coming up on Saturday night. And coming out with me and Jake Arrieta, who else? Johnny Gomes, Ian Desmond, Gerardo Parra. Those are the four who will be captaining the teams for Home Run Derby X in 2023.
There has to be a Baby Shark element with Parra there, yeah?
Oh, yeah. I definitely think so.
Right.
I really hope so. When we did it in Hartford a couple of weeks ago, all the teams were the alternate identities of the Hartford Yard Goats. I really hope that Gerardo Parra's team this week just gets to be the Baby Sharks. I think that
would be lovely. I'm sure there's all sorts of things we have to clear, which is a theme of this episode we will get to later.
We will. Gerardo Parra's team will not be the Bubble Boys, but we will have a discussion of a game that involved a team named the Bubble Boys. Coming up here in just a little while, one of my favorite interviews in the 421 episode history of this podcast. Billy Harner, the assistant general manager of the Brooklyn Cyclones, joins us to talk about his franchise's legendary Seinfeld Night, which they held over this weekend. We went like 40 minutes in the interview. So
at least,
because it's
not more
fun. Yeah.
Right.
I just, I hijacked the whole thing and I'm okay with it. I feel like we've built up enough goodwill that I could just run this episode as long as possible talking about baseball and my favorite TV show of all time. That's what 9 years of doing this show, 8 years of doing this show. I was just building up to this one interview, and now I'm spending all of that capital. And I'm going to get a call from Dan Marinas that's like, let's make it professional from now on. No more Seinfeld jokes.
I mean, they're two rich texts, right? That's the beauty of them, is that you can talk about baseball for hours, as we literally have, and you can talk about Seinfeld for hours because there's just so many nuances to that. And the Cyclones did a tremendous job with that on Saturday. That was the one bummer about me being out of town. I could not go to Seinfeld Night, despite it being an F train away from my place of residence in Brooklyn. But yeah, it's crazy how There's this phrase going around social media now called breaking containment. Basically, the idea of like all these things exist in silos, and there's baseball Twitter, and there's minor league Twitter, and there's movie Twitter, whatever.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, something breaks through the zeitgeist. Being
Ah.
somebody who lives in New York City, seeing other people get excited for Seinfeld Night and hearing the experiences of other people going and people reaching out to me like, oh, wait, you work in minor league baseball, right? What is the story with this? And getting to tell them that it's truly special. I hope it's something that happens in minor league towns across the country. I just happen to live in New York City, so it's something I hear about a lot, Seinfeld Night, but it is a true mark of success when it breaks containment. There's that phrase again, and isn't just a minor league thing, isn't just a baseball thing. It's a true citywide event, and a great way to not close out summer, but in the waning days of summer, something that everybody in this area and from all around the world. Billy was talking about this later, or we'll talk about this later. How many people truly come out to Coney Island for Seinfeld Night? So really special conversation that we're going to have here in a little bit. But first, we do have some other baseball stuff to talk.
We do get a chance to talk baseball. And before we do, if you got any questions for us, podcast@milb.com. You can get in touch with the show. Send us your questions, your thoughts, your comments as we come up on the last month of minor league baseball here in 2023, on the field at least. And lot to discuss on the field as of this week. And the biggest topic, the topic du jour, is promotions to the AA level for 3 of the top prospects in baseball, including 2 draft picks from 2023 who are already at the AA level. There's also a draft pick from 2023 who is already in the big leagues with the Los Angeles Angels, and that is wild. And yet the Angels decided that Nolan Schanuel was set to go for his big league debut. And so far, he's been proving him somewhat right. He's got 4 hits and 15 and 15 at bats, which is pretty cool for the 11th overall pick this year out of Florida Atlantic University. But our topic of conversation, 3 players who are headed to the AA level, and those 3 are MLB's number 3, number 4, and number 5 overall prospect. Paul Skenesand of the Pittsburgh Pirates, the top draft selection in the 2023 MLB first-year player draft. Dylan Crewsand, the outfielder from the Washington Nationals, the 2nd overall pick, and maybe the most stunning one and one of the most exciting prospects we've seen in a while, 17-year-old San Diego Padres catching prospect Ethan Salas, who is now up with the AA San Antonio Missions. 17 is not an age in which you see guys play at AA. And Ethan Salas is now essentially, theoretically, 1 step, maybe 1.5 steps from the big leagues. He is not legally able to vote yet in this country. He's that close to Major League Baseball. Sam, give us your thoughts. Start with whomever you would like. We've got, Paul Skenesand in Altoona, Dylan Crewsand now in Harrisburg, and of course, Ethan Salas in San Antonio.
Yeah, I'll separate them this way. I'll talk about Skenesand and Crewsand later because they're a little bit less surprising. We thought they were pretty advanced. I'll get into that in a little bit, just because the Salas one is so shocking. I mean, you go back to 2006. Since 2006, there's been only one 17-year-old to reach AA. Was Michael De Leon in the Rangers system. He played there for 1 game. It was on an emergency basis. They needed to call up a guy real quick, have him fill in on the infield, and he was sent right back down. Ethan Salas is not being called up for only 1 game. In fact, in his AA debut, he has already played 1 game. He got to play on Tuesday night, hit a walk-off hit in his AA debut, was his first AA hit. So already proven clutch at that level. But it's shocking on its face to see Ethan Salas get here. Now, mind you, Ethan Salas was believed to be very advanced coming into the year. He was the top international prospect on the international market for the folks who were signing January 15th and onward. So we knew that the Padres could get aggressive with him. Speaking to some Padres folks in the spring, they say, hey, listen, this guy impresses us at every turn. They gave him a game in Major League spring training when he was still 16. He turned 17 later. Gave him a little bit of time. It extended. Normally, guys, when they sign in January 15th, they go to the Dominican Summer League. They get their feet wet there. They kept him stateside. So it's like, okay, that's interesting. He's skipping the Dominican complex level. And then they send him to Single A Lake Elsinore. So he skips the Arizona Complex League too. All right, well, they said he was always advanced. He's got a really good hit tool. He's already hitting for power. He's really advanced as a defensive catcher. He works well with pitchers. He frames really well. He's got a strong enough arm. He's bilingual. He was actually born in the States, but moved to Venezuela. He has a rich baseball history. His brother plays in the Twins system. So, okay, I get it. You send him single A. He does really well there. They kick him up to high A. Kind of understand that. Again, you want to be aggressive with your best prospects. The Padres have a history of doing this. Not a huge shock. He was at high A for 9 games, or he played 9 games at high A. Didn't do all that well, at least not as far as the numbers go. So you're thinking like, okay, why kick him up to double A now? And, he only hit 200 in those 9 games, didn't really slug much, was slugging 229. So on-field performance didn't really justify that move. But what the Padres have done, they've moved several prospects to double A San Antonio. Nathan Martorella, Jacob Marcy, Graham Pauley, Robbie Snelling, another top 100 prospect, all moved up to double A. A big reason for that being, and I think this is key here, is that San Antonio has already clinched a Texas League playoff spot. Fort Wayne, I think at the time of the call-up, was a game and a half back. San Antonio had clinched one through the first half. So this isn't even like, oh, they might have to fight off some teams to make the postseason. They won their first half division title. They automatically go into the playoffs. Double A lasts a little bit longer than high A anyways. So if you're the Padres and you're looking at like, hey, everybody thought our system was destroyed after the Juan Soto trade. We've actually done a good job at developing some of these guys, a lot of which are playing their first full years in the system, and they're all progressing pretty well. We want them all together. Now, do we want them all together at high A, where it's only going to be for a few weeks, like 2 weeks? Or do we want them at double A, which is going to be a challenge, but hey, they get to learn about each other. They get to grow with each other, and they get to play for a ring. They're playing meaningful games. That matters more to us. Now, there's every chance, and I know, like I said, Ethan Salas already had the walk-off hit, so he's feeling somewhat comfortable at double A. There's every chance he hits a $150 against double A. That's a big jump, and it ruins his confidence, and it's a risk. It's a risk what the Padres are doing. Let's not pretend like this is them knowing exactly how it's going to go. I think they know that, hey, this is a guy we can get aggressive with. Hopefully it works. Sometimes it doesn't, but even if it doesn't, we like the makeup of the kid enough that he can learn from this and come back. So I don't even think it's a given necessarily that Ethan Salas being at double A now means he's going to start out at double A next year. I think he's still going to have to fight for that spot. I think a lot of this reminds me of, and I think we talked about this last year, Tyler, on the show, Project Birmingham, the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox did this exact same thing. They sent a lot of guys from single A and high A to double A Birmingham with the idea of, you are our prospect core.
You're all going to play together.
Yeah. Right.
You're going to learn how to do this all together.
Yeah. And you're going to play for something. And, it didn't quite work out. I mean, I think like Colson Montgomery, who's their top prospect now, really struggled at double A. But guess what? This year, he's had an OBP right around 500. He's been really, really good when healthy. So it can pay off with the really, really talented ones. And obviously, they think they have somebody really talented in Ethan Salas, who will also be on that team with Jackson Merrill, another top 10 overall prospect. That's the first time those two are going to be playing together ever. So, there's some value there. What the results are, we'll have to wait and see. But I think that's something that I really want to highlight and underline. Of this isn't just Ethan Salas has forced his way to double A. There's some other factors that go into it.
When you look at Ethan Salas, obviously his road developmentally is so different from Dylan Crewsand, from Paul Skenesand. Those guys were just playing in the College World Series, 2 months ago, and yet
playing and winning.
And yet the challenge is really similar. It's similar in terms of going to a level where you're going to face some of the best competition in baseball that early in your careers. It's very different in the fact that, and we always talk about this with college players, those guys really started their season effectively in January. You get in, you start practicing, getting set for your year. College season starts in February. You're playing through June. You win a national championship. Then all of a sudden you jump into pro ball. This is August now. This is 9 months into a season basically for those guys. And they are playing the most difficult competition that they've seen this year. How do you look at those two promotions?
Yeah, I mean, on both sides, it's like you were saying, like playing in the SEC, which is a loaded conference, the most loaded conference in college baseball. That's much closer to high A or even double A than I think a lot of people think. So conquering those levels like they did, or conquering that conference, then playing meaningful baseball deep into the spring before they went pro in the College World Series. These guys are proving it left and right. I mean, they can handle AA ball right now. I think the interesting thing for their call-up is Skenes was at single A, Bradenton. You look at how much he had pitched. He pitched one game in the Florida Complex League. It was only 1 inning. First game with Bradenton, 1 inning. Second game with Bradenton, 2 innings. He's been dominant, but it's, very short stints. A guy who can touch triple digits and has a wicked slider. You'd expect him to do really well in an inning here and there, or even 2 innings. And he's yet to give up a run. He's only given up 1 hit. He hasn't walked anybody. He's got 5 strikeouts. It's working so far. But why skip him over high A? Why not send him to Greensboro? And this is also going to tie into what I'm going to say about Dylan Crews. Greensboro, for the Pirates high A affiliate, is extremely hitter friendly. So if you're looking at Paul Skenes and you think, hey, this guy we think can handle AA anyways, let's not send him to a high A affiliate where there's a potential that he gives up a fly ball that ends up a home run through no fault of his own. And let's ding his confidence a little bit going into his first offseason. There's no upside in that for us. We sent him to AA. Tyler, you've been to Altoona. It's a much fairer park.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. So we give him a fighting chance from that aspect. We think the stuff is going to play. It's only small bites anyways. On the Dylan Crews side, guy destroyed the ball at Fredericksburg. He's playing every day. He's not a pitcher, so it's not like you're wasting bullets as much. But then, looking at high A Wilmington, complete other end of the spectrum, is extremely pitcher friendly. And you send him to high A. The Nats are loaded with outfielders right now anyways. It's going to be tough to get playing time. But you send him to Wilmington, there's every chance, as good a hitter as Dylan Crews is, he hits 220 and he starts questioning himself, maybe tries to make adjustments that he doesn't need to make. Goes to Harrisburg instead, much fairer ballpark. And kind of similar to the Ethan Salas issue, now Dylan Crews is playing in an outfield with James Wood, another top 10 overall prospect, and Robert Hassel III, a former top 100 guy who we've let slip a little bit. But those are 3 really, really good outfielders who could easily, in 2 years' time, be the Nats starting outfield. So you get those guys playing together now, and even if it's just for a few weeks, get those guys to know each other. There was a picture floating around of them sitting in the dugout together. The smile James Wood had on his face talking to Dylan Crews was so excited that he got to play with this guy. The first game, it was Hassel in left, Crews in center, Wood in right. I think they're going to rotate those guys all around. All 3 of them are capable of playing center. All 3 of them are capable of moving around a little bit. I think Hassel is a better fit in left than he is in right, but the more cover you can get them, the better. The more they can play together, the better. And Dylan Crews' hit tool is so advanced and his approach so advanced that he's going to handle AA pretty easily. The question might be, with both Skenes and Crews, I think they could debut in the first half. I kind of wonder if the Nats would even consider Crews starting out the year in the majors next year. With the way that you're incentivized to get your prospects to the major league team earlier now, because the potential for that, if Dylan Crews competes for a rookie of the year spot or an MVP spot before he hits arbitration, you get an extra pick, and that's pretty big. So Dylan Crews is talented enough. We'll see how this AA stretch goes, but it's 2 different animals. If you told me when Skenes and Crews got drafted that they would end the year in AA, I wouldn't be shocked. If you told me when Ethan Salas signed at 16 that he would end the year at AA, I'd be like, what happened? What went on here? And there's just a lot of other factors to consider beyond just on-field performance. But all 3 of these guys are extremely skilled, and I think all of their organizations want to test them because of that.
It really is it never gets any less fun. Watching the way prospects climb, watching how different organizations choose to challenge different guys, it's so fascinating. And every year it brings something new, like Ethan Salas, where it's all of a sudden you've got a 17-year-old as an everyday guy at AA, and it shows you what the Padres think of him and what everybody else seemingly who has come into contact with Ethan Salas thinks of him, that he is just, if anybody can handle it as a catcher in AA at 17 years old, he's that dude. And that's really, really cool to see.
Yeah, and it is a risk. I do want to keep coming back to that
Definitely.
too. I'm a big Ethan Salas fan, but there's every chance that he goes to AA, sees some pitching that he's never seen. He will. Right. He definitely will. And that could ruin his approach. He could fall into some bad habits, all that kind of stuff. It's a risk that they're taking, but it's a fun one. You say, Tyler, that's the most fun part of this job isn't knowing things, it's being surprised. Because you can study baseball as much as you want. Some things are going to happen that you didn't expect. And I love that stuff because it's an opportunity to learn. And, maybe by the time there's another Ethan Salas rolling around, we won't be as shocked. But then again, maybe there will never be another Ethan Salas. And this is the start of a all-time career. We'll have to find out together.
All right, Sam, it is time to dive into the world of the greatest television comedy that's ever existed, as we turn our sights to Coney Island in Brooklyn, the home of the Cyclones, as well as the lengthy subway trip that Kramer describes on how to get to Brooklyn, how to get to Coney Island. And then Elaine says, and this is back in a previous era of New York subway mapping and numerical letter values, but I think she says, couldn't you just take the double R straight to Coney Island? And Kramer goes, well, yeah. It's kind of a deep cut scene that you might have to go find. But Billy Harner from the Brooklyn Cyclones joins us to talk Seinfeld Night. Coming up next.
This summer, go on an Eatscation with Uber Eats. Deals all summer long that'll make your stomach go, mmm, and your wallet go, ah. We got crunchy deals, noodly deals, melty deals.
Queso.
Not leaving the house today deals.
It's too dang hot.
Because on Eatscation, it's not where you are, it's what you eat. This week, get $7 off your order of $20 or more from Starbucks, only on Uber Eats. Terms apply. See app for details.
Now playing on Apple TV+.
Here is Michael J. Fox. What is the secret of your success?
The story of me. Take two.
Experience the documentary that critics are calling inspiring and captivating.
To deny that part of me that wants to do things is to quit.
And now it's nominated for 7 Emmys, including Outstanding Documentary or Nonfiction Special.
I will overcome this, and there'll be bigger days and better days.
Still, a Michael J. Fox movie. Rated R. Streaming only on Apple TV+.
Well, there are few things in baseball and in minor league baseball that excite me as much as being able to unite multiple favorite topics of mine. And one of those is baseball, and the other is Seinfeld. And with that, we get to pivot to arguably the greatest promotional night or series of promotional nights in the history of not just baseball, but let's say human civilization. And we bring on the assistant general manager of the Brooklyn Cyclones, Billy Harner, to join us to talk about Seinfeld Night 2023. Billy, it's good to see you, man. How are you?
I am terrific. I'm going to have to bring you around like my hype man whenever I go. That's some intro. I appreciate that.
Well, this is a promo that's been going on for a while. You guys sort of set the standard. You kind of kicked off, I feel like, the night to night honoring the tributes to a single pop culture thing with Seinfeld Night when you initially did it. What was the first year for Seinfeld Night? Tell us about the genesis of this.
So the first year we did was 2014. And at that time we were a short season affiliate. So we played from June until September. And it was right around New Year's. The New York Newsday puts out a special section of upcoming pop culture anniversaries, which has basically become my Bible over the years. I sit in there and I scroll through it and try to find stuff. And we were having one of our staff meetings, and it was brought up that it's the 25th anniversary for Seinfeld. And I said, well, obviously we're gonna have to do that. It's a thing that I love, and it's sort of like a religion here in New York. So it's a very New York centric show, obviously, and very popular here in Brooklyn. So we said, all right, we're going to do this. How are we going to do it? So the first thing we thought of was the Keith Hernandez connection to the show, and we're a Mets affiliate. So obviously, we have some connection there as well. So we reached out to Keith and explained, hey, we want to do a Seinfeld Night. We're looking to do a Magic Loogie bobblehead. And he just started laughing. And away we went. It was the first year, I knew I was going to have fun with it, which is what was most concerning to me, to make it different from the other, at that point, 38 games. So we put it out the first year. Boomer and Carton was the morning show here in New York on WFAN. And we sent it over to them in the morning with the expectation, hey, maybe they'll talk about this. And I literally sent it at 5:30 in the morning, went back to bed, woke up and had 100 emails and 40 messages, and was like, oh my God, what did I do? Something terrible has happened. But it turned out it was the opposite, and people were super into it. And it was on Mike and Mike on ESPN, and everybody wanted to get the renderings of it and the pictures of it, and talk to somebody about what we had planned. And that day turned into be a very different day than I expected when I first saw all those missed calls and voicemail. So it was a lot of fun. And that first year we had people come from 26 different states and 7 different countries. And a guy came from Canada and slept in his car and overslept, so he wasn't the first guy in line, which I thought was very appropriate for a Seinfeld theme.
He was Jean Paul, the
exactly.
marathon runner.
He got the AM/PM wrong or something.
It was the volume.
So yeah, I mean, it was just everything sort of just came together perfectly that first year, and it was a ton of fun. And we've been building ever since from 2014.
All right, Sam, I'm just going to tell you right now, this interview is going 90 minutes. Billy, when you guys kick this off, it is sort of weird to think about this way, but it's so crazy to talk about 2014 in this manner, but that was a different era of minor league promotions. Like having a night dedicated specifically to one pop culture thing was not extremely common back then. Like Seinfeld Night was a fairly unique endeavor in its own right. And now since then, it's like every week is something different for a different minor league team, whether it's a Sandlot promotion or a Jurassic Park promotion or whatever it is. But you guys set a bar very high. That first year, what were some of the biggest lessons that you learned, especially knowing how much it took off before you actually got a chance to host the night? Coming up with the various different elements of it, what were things that you learned that you've been able to take through now almost a decade of doing Seinfeld Nights?
So from the first year, obviously we sort of undersold ourselves on how popular it was going to be. So we realized that this was a staple and this was something that we had to do. Even if we didn't want to do it anymore, we still have to do it every single year. And then we found different, ways to use the ballpark. This year we had the Del Boca Brooklyn rooftop, which had themed foods from Seinfeld. So there was babkas and beefaroni and Kenny Rogers roasted wings kind of stuff. And we sold that as a Seinfeld specific area. We had a tent with John O'Hurley underneath it, and he was doing photos and appearances. We did packages for a guaranteed item, so the lines get pretty long for these things. So we had 2,500 general giveaways, and we had 2,500 other people who guaranteed the item by paying a little bit more of a premium for it. So the first year we did it, and we ordered the bobbleheads, and if you didn't get one, sorry, we wish we could have gotten more, and we sort of learned from that. So it's become, we try to get as many items in the hands as we can for people, because we know that's such a big part of what the night has become, and people love to keep it on their desks and show it off on Instagram and all that stuff. So that was a big lesson. The bit characters on the show aren't necessarily bit characters, I guess. They have big roles, even though they have, are only in 1 or 2 episodes. So we've had Larry Thomas, obviously, who was the soup Nazi. We had Phil Morris, who was Jackie Childs. We've had Steve Heitner, who was Kenny Bania. We've had Bizarro Jerry. We had Jean Paul, who was here. So all these people that are in, a handful of episodes, people go nuts for them. And just the connections to the show have been fun. The one year we had Jean Paul, we did a Mr. Bevilacqua 0.5K. And it was 1 lap around the warning track. And the actual guy who was Mr. Bevilacqua, the actual gym teacher, reached out to us and wanted to come to the game. And I was like, this is ridiculous. That's
incredible.
So, stuff like that has just sort of perfectly happened to us. It makes us look like we're crawling through the weeds trying to find people, but a lot of this stuff has just been dumb luck, to be honest with you. And it's just worked out perfectly, and there's no small part. We've had, last year we had Donna Chang come, which is 1 episode, and she's probably
I'm not taking advice from some woman from Long Island.
Right. So we had she was probably in 8 minutes of the show total. And she came here last year and drew a crowd of people as well. So everybody has their favorite episode. Everybody has their favorite characters. So we're trying to tap into as many of them as possible. And although we'd love to have any of the big 4, obviously, but we've sort of made our living on this with sort of the ancillary characters.
Yeah, and you're talking about how so much of this has kind of just happened to you guys, where you guys announced the night and people are reaching out to you. But I got to give you guys credit for, like, especially this year, the marine biologist episode might be like the most quoted episode for me and my friends growing
What's
up.
so funny that is, you said everybody has their favorite episode. That's my favorite episode. That and the Merv Griffin show episode.
Yeah.
Out of 1,000 of favorites, those are my favorites.
Yeah, me and my friends, we used to play golf every Friday after work, and one of us would have a Titleist. And we would just hold it up to the other one and say, Titleist, huh? We would never get a hole in one, but we would pretend that we had hit it into a whale. So that was your guys' bobblehead this year. I mean, how much, as you guys have seen this get more and more popular, how much are you planning ahead for the future of, like, this could be a bobblehead, this could be a bobblehead, this could be a shirt? Or is it just year by year?
I spent a lot of time in traffic on the Belt Parkway, and I let my mind wander as to, what would be funny if we did this? And it's a lot of my stuff. I have like a notepad in my passenger seat that I write random stuff down, and also, like Seinfeld, I can't read it sometimes, so I forget what I was thinking. But so this year, so just a little backtrack. So last year when we had our Seinfeld night, the Elaine dance contest went viral on social media, and the Monday after the Seinfeld night, I got a phone call from the Seinfeld marketing people from Sony. And I was like, oh God, cease and desist. I'm going to jail. This is over. We had a good run.
That'd be my first thought too.
Right. And I expected to, go onto a Zoom with this guy, and it was going to be a conference room filled with lawyers. And I got on, and the guy was like, I just wanted to let you know that everything you guys do is great, and we love what you're doing. And we were watching the video this morning, and we just wanted to connect so you guys know, like, we're on board. Whatever you want us to help with, we'll do it. And I was like, I've had an out of body experience. I thought, like, this was going one way and it went a completely different way. So that conversation, I said, all right, so here's what I want to do. Next year, I want to do a George Costanza, The Art of Seduction bobblehead. And they thought it was hilarious. I thought it was hilarious. I was like, all right, so this is what we're going to do. And the idea, it went to the proper channels, and it was decided that was a little too risque.
A little risque.
Right, for a family-friendly minor league ballpark.
White boxer brief bobbleheads for
right.
a stout, chubby man.
Right. The camera loves stoutness, but we couldn't. It was against my better judgment. I decided we probably shouldn't go this way. So, we went back and forth a few different times, and we came up with the marine biologist who are on the beach and all that stuff. So it ended up being. At first, it was a killer whale, and we had to remove that and make sure that it was the blue whale, which is from the show, to make sure things were correct as possible. So, now we're already on to next year's the 35th anniversary of when the show debuted. So I've had 2 or 3 ideas that I'm hoping to talk to them about in the next few days to get things started for next year and try to top ourselves, once again.
Well, I'm just saying, maybe this is softening the ground to bring, the art of seduction into, enough people listen to this and reach out to the Cyclones and say, hey, I would come out.
Maybe we could blur the face, maybe a little like PG that way.
There we go. One thing I'm interested too is that you guys, not only did you guys have specialty uniforms this year when you guys were playing as the Pretty Boys, you also got Hudson Valley to buy in with the Bubble Boys. They were the Wappingers Falls Bubble Boys. What was it like trying to reach out to the Renegades and be like, hey, you guys want to, because they're a New York area team too. I'm sure they're in on it, but like it's a promotion for an away game essentially on their end.
What makes that even better too is that is essentially where the Bubble Boy would have lived, because he was like slightly upstate.
Right. They mentioned something about the falls on that episode, so I took that and said, well, it's got to be Wappingers Falls.
Of course, obviously, yeah.
Right. I mean, there's no other falls. Everybody talks about Wappinger Falls like you're going to the Hamptons. So yeah, I mean they were great. We had the idea. We were able to put together the logos and sent it up to them for approval, and they had the idea of potentially doing like a home and home thing, but the process of getting everything approved and getting the jerseys produced was not conducive for that. Like the jerseys arrived like 4 days before our game, so we couldn't really do a home and home thing. Potentially that's something we could do going forward, because like you said, they're a New York area team, they're a Yankees affiliate, there's obviously Yankees connections to the show as well. So they were great about it. We sent it over to their general manager, and he got approval from the Yankees, and the jerseys are going towards charity efforts here in the New York area. So it's just fun. The best part about minor league baseball is that we all like to have fun, and we don't take ourselves too seriously. So we've had a great relationship with Hudson Valley, having been in the Penn League with them prior to the South Atlantic League. So we've done some good stuff back and forth. So they were awesome to deal with, and the day itself, their coaches and players got into it too. So it was just a great day all around.
What's so weird is like now there are, and this makes me feel so ancient to say, but now like everybody on these rosters, they weren't even born when Seinfeld was on the air. So what is the reaction from players like? I would imagine, coaches, player development people in front offices are going to be excited about it. But if you are a player, like for us, that would be the equivalent of wearing jerseys from like MASH, like stuff that wasn't on TV when we were born or when we were really little. What are players' reactions like?
Yeah, 20-year-old guys from Santo Domingo aren't necessarily sitting around watching Seinfeld on the regular. So there's a little, explanation to, this is what we're doing. And it's something that we've done for the last, pretty much a decade. We skipped a year for COVID. But the first year we did it, we had the guys take batting practice in puffy shirts. And none of the players had like seen an episode of it. And we knew we had all these media requests from people all over the place. So they went on a road trip, and I gave them like a Seinfeld DVD box set. And I was like, hey, just watch the puffy shirt episode so you can at least speak sort of knowledgeably, like about at least specifically that episode. And they were going up to, I think, Burlington, Vermont to play the Lake Monsters. And I gave them, a box set, and they apparently watched it like the whole trip back and forth or something like that. So I started off trying, here's 20 minutes of a low talker and a puffy shirt, and just play along. And some of them got into it, so it ended up being a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, most of it, it's become sort of, now that like streaming is such a thing and it's on Netflix, like a lot of them don't have cable in their apartments, and when they're in spring training they have some downtime, so a lot of them have sort of seen it now in this second generation of, I guess, with streaming and things. But so that becomes a little bit easier. But in the beginning, like literally we were like, hey, we're going to have 7,500 people here tomorrow, and they're all going to be screaming, watching people eat Snickers with knives and forks. So you need to know something about what's going on.
It's the greatest. We've done 420 episodes of this podcast. I feel like we've built up enough goodwill that I can just be like, sorry, this is the Seinfeld Night episode, and now we're just going to go for an hour. Billy, I hope you had no plans today. Seinfeld has such an interesting relationship with the Mets and Yankees, because Jerry Seinfeld himself, famously a big Mets fan. In the show, he's a Yankees fan, even though at the beginning of the show, he's a Mets fan. In the pilot, he makes a comment about not ruining the end of the Mets game because he taped it. And then Kramer, who is then known as Kessler in the pilot episode, comes in, says, oh, the Mets blew it tonight. What is the Mets' reaction to this? Because this really is like the perfect promo tie outside of Scranton Wilkes-Barre doing stuff with The Office. This is such a perfect tie-in because you are New York City's minor league team. Coney Island is referenced in Seinfeld multiple times. When the Mets get to buy into this, or Keith Hernandez gets to buy into it, Buck Showalter was in an episode of Seinfeld and has complained about having to sign royalty checks for the 30 years since he has been in that episode. How cool is it seeing the way that the organizations themselves react to this?
It's awesome. I mean, like this is sort of what we've become known for. Like when we get our schedule, it's all right, when's opening day? And then for fans, it's when's Seinfeld Night? Like that is the immediate question. Like our schedule is going to come out soon, and if I don't have an answer, like there's going to be pitchforks and flames at the front gates. Like I need to like have this sort of in motion already. It's awesome. I mean, it's cool seeing all, like a lot of other teams in minor league baseball have started to do it. The Mets have done. They did a Seinfeld Night where they had the Jerry bobblehead a few years ago. We obviously have a little more freedom to, do weird stuff like the Ass Man balloon popping contest in between innings. I don't think that would fly at Citi Field. Having the Poppy's little sloppy contest, like the minor league baseball aspect of it is what makes it so perfect for us. But it's really cool to see, big league affiliates like the Mets getting, they've done it and had success with it as well. Jerry threw out a first pitch for their night a few years ago when it went on Netflix, and seeing these other minor league teams get involved. It's just, when somebody has a good idea, it's a good idea. It's not our thing, it's an everybody thing. So one of my favorite things about this whole, year two, I think we did a two or three, I don't remember, they all sort of blend together at this point, but we did a second spitter bobblehead, and Roger McDowell was the pitching coach for the Braves. And I went over there and we did like a video, like it was going to be like like an office ISO cam, where we were going to have him finally admit that he was the second spitter. And we got there and I was like, all right, here's the script, this is what we'd like you to say. And he looked at it, he's like, I'm not going to say that. And I was like, okay. And he was like, this is going to go down it's going to go down with the ship. I'm not going to admit that I was the
He's
second
never
spitter.
admitting that he was the second spitter
I
on
was
the
like,
gravelly road.
You're absolutely right. You are 1000% right. This should not be a thing. You should take this to the grave. So that's what we did. We did the video. It says, I bet you all think you know what happened that evening on the gravelly road, but I'll never admit to it. And like, we showed the video in
that
park.
really is so much better.
100%. 100%.
We showed the video in park and people went nuts. And we've had the woman who is on the episode where he's running a car and she can take the reservation but not hold the reservation. She was doing a Broadway, like an off-Broadway play in the city. So we had her do a commercial for us one year saying that, don't worry, if you order tickets with the Cyclones, they will take and hold your reservation. You can pick up your tickets at will call. Like, just all these little ridiculous things just come up perfectly.
This is my new favorite interview on this podcast. Billy, when you get to go deeper into the thing about Seinfeld is like, it is the show that keeps on giving for a promotion like this, because you could come up with a million ideas. You could stretch this promotional idea out for years and years. And it's crazy because you would think, oh yeah, if you could get one of the big four, that would be amazing. If you could get Michael Richards or Julia Louis-Dreyfus or Jason Alexander or Jerry Seinfeld, obviously that'd be incredible. I also sort of feel like it would almost not draw back in a way, but it would overshadow everything else that you do about Seinfeld Night. The fact that you're able to bring in the guy who played Kenny Bania, that for fans of the show, who are the people showing up for games, that's almost more amazing to them, I would imagine, than being able to see, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Is there a thought process in like, all right, we got to see how obscure we can get with some of these characters? Like, have you reached out, tried to find somebody that like people would never remember and it's either gone right, or maybe somebody's been like, nah, I'm off of that? I have a buddy who did an interview with the actor who played Kenny Bania for a different project at one time, and he was like, don't ask me about Seinfeld. Like, these are actors who want to do something else in their careers, and yet they're so heavily tied to that.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some the guy who when George has to get the calzones and Kramer pays and change, the guy that was like,
how do I know about cooking a shirt, huh?
right. That guy, we at one point we were trying to get him to come just for like a calzone eating contest. Like that was a one-time thing.
He's on screen for like 18 seconds in the show. That's amazing.
Yeah, just like, but that's the other part of this, is that like there's no like casual Seinfeld fans. Like there's very few of them.
Yeah.
Like if you're a Seinfeld fan, you know every episode and every reference, and which is also sort of daunting.
I don't know what you're talking about. You and I are very much not that way, obviously.
Yeah, so it's very daunting to have, like, if you mess up a line or you do something wrong, like if George is signing with his left hand for a check and he should have been signing with his right, like we'll hear about it.
People will drag you for that.
Right. So it's a little intimidating to do that. But we've had basically anybody who's alive and was on the show, like we've reached out to them to try to do something. Like I've been trying to get Babu to come and do a bobble finger for 10 years. Like we had Jimmy, I wanted to do a Jimmy dunking with strength shoes on. We've done all of these things. So like I love the obscure. We try to push the envelope a little bit with the obscurity of it, but like the episodes are so loved that even the obscure aren't really obscure. Like Jean Paul is in one episode and probably on screen for 5 minutes, and everybody knows Jean Paul. Like there's just there's no small characters on that show, so even the small roles still have a lifetime afterwards.
Have you heard from any of the big four. Like you heard from the marketing department, and that's awesome. Have you ever gotten, even through like, I'm acting as though this is like something during the Cold War, even through like diplomatic back channels, have you gotten like a message from Michael Richards? Like, I really appreciate all the honors.
Jerry has a relationship with the Mets, so we've sort of like had some in the beginnings, some back channel conversations, I guess, where they were give us their the blessing of what we were doing. The coolest thing potentially from this year was Spike Ferriston, who wrote so many of the episodes, including the Elaine dancing episode, including the Soup Nazi episode. He sent us a DM like 2 days ago, and he wants to come and judge the Elaine dancing contest next year.
Oh,
and
that's awesome!
Like, I was losing my mind. Like, this is the coolest thing that could possibly happen. And being one of the 3 people in the office that's old enough to actually have seen the show, nobody else was understanding how cool this is. But I was like, we just got a DM from this guy. He's gonna come next year. This is amazing. So that the episode with the Elaine dancing contest wants to come and judge the Elaine dancing contest. So that's a pretty cool full circle moment for us for sure.
Yeah. Now that and I don't mean to like jump over him, but like for some reason, the idea of Larry David judging a contest, just sitting back and just being like, not for me.
Yeah.
Nope. Just no.
Right.
But you
just say no to everybody.
You can only shoot him from behind, and he has to be doing the whole same hand motions that he
did. There we go.
Steinbrenner and the guy from Tyler Chicken.
Yeah, that's if you ever get Larry David, you can only use him from behind.
Right. We find one winner, and he just goes, "I was blown away."
Well, I mean, we're talking about how successful this has been and how cool all the references are, but you guys got your biggest crowd since 2015. 8,100 people showed up for this year, and then several of them, I think it's several thousand, stayed for the Elaine dancing contest. I mean, what is it like when you've just retained an audience like that, and what is it about that dancing contest that seems to really have stuck?
It started from the very beginning. The first year we had Seinfeld Night, I think we lost 17-3, or like it was something that was like a football score where we got absolutely destroyed and nobody left. Like, everybody stayed because we had the Elaine dancing contest and we had everybody runs the bases, but if you're Jerry, you get a head start. And everybody stayed, and we had all these people watching the Elaine dancing contest, and it's grown and grown and grown and grown. Like, my dream with this thing, and Steve Cohen, who's our vice president here, we've talked about it. We want to get like the guy who does the Nathan's hot dog intros, like George Shea. We want to get him to do like an intro like video for all these women that when they go out and dancing on the field. But it's a crazy thing for what we do, where we try to plan everything around the baseball game, and we try to keep people entertained. And for a night like this where we won, it was a great game, it was exciting, we won 8-7, and then the game's over and the same thing, nobody leaves. There was probably about a 35 minutes because we had a lot of people in the contest this year, and they're all sitting in their seats, standing, or more likely standing up, screaming and being a part of it. Like, it's a surreal feeling. Like, there's thousands of people watching just people dance poorly. Like, it's not anything to do with the baseball game. It's we're not doing anything. We're just playing a song, and then the fans are providing the entertainment. So it's wild. Like I said, this year I was sitting with Kevin Mahoney, who's your general manager. The two of us were sitting on the field. And I said, I felt like I'm in the Roman Coliseum because people are booing mercilessly when some people's doing something, they're doing something wrong. Somebody they didn't like, people did something great, they were cheering. There was one time where we thought it was a pretty close in the fan voting. So one person won and another guy lost, and they started booing. So we decided, all right, he's the wild card. Like, all right, he moves on to the finals. Like, it's phenomenal. And I mean, like, I looked at some of the videos on social, like there's a video of people dancing poorly that has 9 million views, like from our game on Instagram and Twitter. And it's surreal, but it just goes, it's probably the thing that's the most popular that we do as part of it. It's the one thing that if we got rid of, there would obviously be a noticeable backlash from the fans that typically come, but It's literally like I have nothing to do with it. This year I bought a trophy for $9.99 and we wrote a lane dancing winner on it, and that was what they got. In the past, we bought like a toy wrestling belt and I taped a big salad to it, and that was the prize that they got. So that's the extent of what we do, and it's really the fans that make it so fun and memorable. All these people that come in costume and different eras of a lane,
big wall of hair.
Right. Yeah. Some of them are do like the flowy, flowery dresses. Some of them are corporate lanes. Some, like it's really cool to see people get so into it.
I have to ask you a mechanical question real quick about the dancing contest. Do you just play that When You Wish Upon a Star song for the entire thing? So it's like 30 minutes of whatever that song is.
So we do breaks to reset every now and then, but it's that's you're shining a star for the entire time. It's a little bit like Groundhog Day with I've Got You, Babe, but it goes on for it's 30 minutes of that same song pretty much. Yeah.
Well, so for the people who shot the show, that was like one day of filming, if that. It might have been half a day. They were moving on to other scenes. You've gone through 9 years of this, 8 games, not counting COVID. What makes a good lane dancer? Who wins? Like what and all the winners that you've had, what has been the consistency?
So the costumes really are key. In the beginning, we had a woman dancing holding juji fruits. We've had women that wear Orioles caps to the game. The dresses but it's the people that you could tell aren't taking themselves too seriously and are having fun. Like they know what they're doing, and they'll do the little kicks and they'll do the dry heaving set to music and all that stuff. And it really is crazy. Like, this year we had a finals of, I think, six people. There was 5 women and a guy, Ralph, who's one of our season ticket holders. And they're all in costume and they're all doing sort of the same thing, but they put their little tweaks to it. There's, a woman who got so into it, she fell down to the ground and was doing like a little James Brown. It was, it's fun. I mean, I think the fact that we do a post game, so people have a couple beverages during the game and loosen up a little bit, makes it a big difference. If we did it in the 4th inning, I don't think it would have the same effect. But yeah, it's the costumes, it's the off rhythm. Like it's very hard to be as off rhythm as she was on the show. So to be kicking on the downbeat or whatever, it's a special talent to be that off rhythm. So there's those are probably my 2. If I was going to give you some cheat sheets as to how to win the 2024 lane dancing contest, it would be come in costume and try to lose all sense of rhythm.
All right. Well, I think Tyler and I need to try this next year. Tyler, I will pay for your flight.
I will say, the very first year that you guys did this was my 2nd year since leaving the minor leagues as a radio guy. It was actually the year before we started the podcast, but it was the year that Sam and I started working together. And a guy who was my best friend here, he sent me some story about it and was like, hey, you think you got to hook up to get me this bobblehead from this 2014 Seinfeld Night? And yesterday I'm walking out of the house to go do some yard work. My fiance, not a massive minor league baseball fan or follower, she goes, oh, did you see this? The Brooklyn Cyclones did a lane dance. And I was like, oh yeah, I did see that. I do know about that. So it's something that really does transcend the average minor league fan. I mean, it's something where, you think of, the Isotopes, that's a Simpsons tie-in. Lehigh Valley, Bacon, Seinfeld Night is the Brooklyn Cyclones. Like, you guys have, that is your thing. And it's so tied to that organization. What does that mean to you, Billy, as being somebody who was the visionary behind this, that it's gone on for almost a decade and it's like a cultural phenomenon? Like, if you step outside and look at a 30,000 foot view of this, it's got to be pretty damn cool.
Yeah. I mean, so I took some time on Sunday, the day afterwards, and I just went on Twitter, which was a scary thing, and just searched Brooklyn Cyclones. To just get some comments from people.
You're a brave man.
I know, but that's how confident I am in what we do on our Seinfeld night. So other than the people who hated us for not getting a bobblehead, there were people saying things like Seinfeld Night with the Brooklyn Cyclones is the most New York City thing in the history of time, and you'll never convince me otherwise. Like, that was a tweet from somebody, and I got chills. Like there was another person
That's
that
awesome.
said, I have never been to a baseball game in my life, and Seinfeld Night has ruined me for all baseball for the rest of time. Like you seeing stuff like that is just like, I mean, that's why we do it. Like, we always talk about as a minor league team, you can't control the product on the field, and we have to plan to make people entertained. Whether it's 17-3 or there's rain delays, or we can't control if our team is good or not.
Yeah.
So being able to do this and seeing people stick around and watch a lane dancing and run the bases and come early to get the items, and then participate in all these contests, and that's like as good as you can feel as a minor league front office person when you felt like you've done your job. So it's awesome. It's something that I'm incredibly proud of. Our organization, there's 20 of us that put this on, and every single person, we need them involved to make it as successful as it's been. The concession stands get slammed because we had our biggest crowd in almost 10 years. So, they need to make it a good experience for people too, and work twice or three times as hard, depending on the night, with, the usual crowd that we have. So it's something that I'm incredibly proud of. It's something that our entire organization is incredibly proud of. But yeah, it's literally like the most perfect night for us, for someone who likes minor league baseball, to see those sort of comments from people, and people leaving and having no idea what the score was, but smiling ear to ear and knowing that they had a great time. That's really what drives it home for me and makes us know that we're doing our jobs here.
All right, man. I'm making the pilgrimage next year. Sam, you gotta call me on this. We're making this happen next year, and I'm probably gonna drag my buddy Nate out with me as well, because we talked about it since year number one. This is the problem with this interview, though, is you make like one little comment, and then I'm like, I gotta ask questions about that. Like concession stands, do you have like a dinky donut? Do you have a big salad? Are there concessions elements also?
Yeah, I mean, we do all that stuff. We do black and white cookies for desserts. We do beefaroni. We did big salads. We did, I think this year we did George's Brigand sandwiches, and we just did like grab and go sandwiches. There's all sorts. We try to tie in as much stuff as possible. We did, not this year, but in the past we've done Bosco and chocolate milk, for people. We did on the rooftop this year. Like I said, we had a Seinfeld themed menu, and everything up there was connected to the show. So that was cool. There was just a table that had junior mints and juji fruits and all that. I was walking by on my way to another contest, and I just was chugging to myself at how ridiculous this all is. But
I was going to say, are there other competitive elements involved? Like within a lane dance, that's obviously such a good thing. You could build little door frames and see who does the best Kramer entrance. Like, I would think there are other things that you could do. Are there other competitions that you've thought about, or is the lane dance just so good that you got to stick with that?
No, I mean, that one has to be part of it. We do about 15 in between inning or / pregame contests that are Seinfeld themed. So this year we did a George ice cream sundae eating contest. So you couldn't use your hands, and it was whoever had the messiest face at the end was the winner. We did a Snickers knife and fork eating contest. We had Newman Fathead and a Kramer Fathead with a bucket in front of them, and gave people gumballs, and they were spitting off of their face to try to get the gumballs into the basket to win. We did a Can't Spare a Square contest where a person was holding toilet paper on their head and their partner ran around to tie them up like a mummy. I mean, that's the most fun part for me, is like I lock myself in my office and just binge watch The Greatest Of, and I'll write that, we should do this, we should do this. That's
the world's greatest job assignment.
Yeah, I'm getting paid to do it, and if somebody knocks on the door, hey, I'm watching Seinfeld.
Go away.
Okay, yeah, you're fine. Just keep going. We did fishing for marble rye in the past, where we have marble ryes that people drop down with a fishing pole and wheel back up. We did the same thing with the lobster crate, where people tried to wheel up a lobster crate. This year we did a sponge-worthy contest, which was a giant soapy sponge that you threw like an Easter egg contest, like, and took a step back each time. I mean, that's what makes it. I mean, it's all that stuff that people come to see. Our hot dog race that we do this every game. One of the mustard took off and then chose not to run, so he went back, and then ketchup got to the finish line and stopped short. because that's Frank Costanza's move, and then Mustard or Relish went on to win. You know, like all that stuff is what makes it. I mean, that's what the people here are here to see. They don't care about, you know, Jet Williams hit a home run that won the game for us. That's great. You know, Mets top prospect, all this good stuff. They'd rather see people wrap themselves in toilet paper for the most
I
of the
will
time.
say on the toilet paper note, nothing has made me feel like we are in a post-pandemic world more than we can now use rolls of toilet paper for things like wrapping people up as mummies and
Right.
not hoarding it and all the things that 3 years ago, if you were going to explain, like, don't worry, someday on Seinfeld Night the Brooklyn Cyclones will be back to just wrapping people up in toilet paper, it's all going to be fine. I would have derived a lot of confidence and optimism about the future from that. Billy is the last one for me, because I swear I could just keep this going for the next 8 hours. What would be, if you were to look at next year, you know, the 10th anniversary or the 10th time that you do Seinfeld Night, what would be like an ultimate get outside of, let's say, you know, getting the big four to show up? Because that I feel like would just be, that'd be like the Beatles at Shea Stadium. Like, I don't know if you'd be able to handle it. What would be something that maybe you haven't gotten yet, a promo or a guest or something that you would love to nail down that would be like, oh man, that would be one of the ultimates?
I've personally, I've always wanted to get Putty and do something with him. For the very first year when we did the contest, when we did Seinfeld Night, we had a contest because everything was sold out, where if people came with Cyclones painted on their chest, they got free tickets. So like I love the Putty character. I think there's a ton of fun things, you know, the 8-ball jacket. There was a guy walking around this year that was wearing a Devils jersey and had his face painted. That was in the all you can drink in the backyard. So that's something that is so I've always wanted to do something with him. Newman, we've tried to reach out to Wayne Knight and get something with Newman. Just because again, there's so many fun things that you could do with Newman. So he would be a guy that I would love to get involved with as well. You know, I have the idea, a couple of years ago, we wore jerseys that were like Kramer's pimp coat. And we wore those on field, but I think that would be a really cool bobblehead. Would be, you know, Kramer.
That would be good.
Amazing Technicolor dream
with that
coat.
sweet hat with the fur on it, the feathers on it.
Yeah. And I think if I could do anything for next year, just based on what we've done over the last 10 years of doing it, and a lane dancing little kicks bobblehead, you know, with like a bobblehead and then have a bobble at the knee so you can have the leg kick back and forth. I mean, that's a dream, and like would be perfect. I think of, you know, a bookend for when we started to where we've come has been a lane dancing contest. So that's really in my mind. That's what I want to do, and I really hope that we can make that work.
All right. Well, that Tyler kind of stole my question of like, what were you guys going to work on for next year? And I'm sure the wheels are already turning. You're talking about
because you and we're already mapping out that we're going to be there. Sam.
I know.
We're on the same wavelength with that.
Yeah. I mean, when you were talking about being on the Belt Parkway scratching notes, I was just imagining your other arm was painting wider lanes as you were going along too.
For sure.
Flaming globes of Sigmund.
Yeah, there you go.
While I'm bringing bottles to Maine because they're Michigan because it's worth 10 cents.
But you know, this will be the last one, and it's not that obscure. But you know, you were talking about before getting the Yankees affiliate involved and them wearing uniforms. Did you pitch cotton?
If I knew somebody that made cotton for jerseys, we probably would have done that. It's not as widely available. I guess during the Danny Tartable days. So
and you only have to wear them one time,
right?
So you're not going to launder and shrink them. Yeah,
exactly.
I'm just saying.
You know what? It's a very good idea for
that.
Next
Is a
year.
pretty good idea.
They could be normal jerseys, but if they're cotton, the crowd would go nuts.
For sure. I'll get on the horn with Wilson and see if we can get that done.
There we go. Well, Billy, thank you so much for being here and staying as long as you did to take us through this, because there's a lot to dig into, and it's been a lot of fun. So thanks so much for doing this.
No, happy to be here. Anytime you guys want to talk about Seinfeld, I'll jump on the horn for sure.
Yeah, maybe in December. We'll just
don't give me that excuse, because we're going to do the next 12 episodes.
We'll have Festivus on the show. Come December.
The Festivus episode coming.
I've got a poll. I'll just put it in the back of this shot. You know, no tinsel. I find tinsel.
I got a lot of problems with you, Tyler, and now you're going to hear about it.
That's the sad thing, is it'll actually just be an hour-long episode of Sam's airing of grievances against me.
I was walking around on the concourse, and there was a guy that was covering the game, and he gave me Kramer's and Newman's business card and Kramer's business card
Oh my
from
God.
H&H Bagels.
That is
And
incredible.
that type of precision is what I expect from people when they come to Seinfeld Night. And it was one of the guys that was covering the game. He wrote an article for NBC, and I went up to the press box, and he was like, "Only a guy like you would appreciate this." And he handed it to me, and I was like, "This is perfect. This is exactly what I want from a night like this."
That is amazing. People's dedication, and to be able to share your shared love and joy of something like that with 8,000 plus other people is so cool. And you guys should be really proud. Billy, this was awesome, man. Yeah, don't tempt us, because we'll do this again like every week until 2024's edition.
This episode is brought to you by Orbit Gum. Do you feel the excitement on campus? The semester has started. Whether you're a freshman or senior, your ding needs to be on point. You never know who you might meet. With Orbit, it's your time to shine. Have the confidence to meet new friends, try new things, and create memories that'll last a lifetime. This semester, do what makes you ding with Orbit Gum.
I'm in. Sounds good.
We interrupt this podcast to bring you another thrilling edition of Ghosts of the Miners. Now, here's your correspondent and host, Joshua Jackson.
Welcome back to Ghosts of the Miners, in which all of you out there in Radioland must identify the legitimate historical ball club hiding amidst the fraudulent pair. One once made hay while the sun was shining. The others never even left the barn. In the last segment, I asked you which of the following minor league baseball teams did at one time exist. A. The Brewster Cinderblocks. B. The Sugar City Anvils. C. The Coffeyville Bricks. You're no caffeine-deficient rockhead if you picked C. The Coffeyville Bricks, who lugged their way around the Kansas State League of 1906. A fine town just a stone's throw from the Oklahoma border in Kansas's Montgomery County, Coffeyville carried a heavy load as a producer of glass and bricks in the early 20th century. The city's population grew at industrial speed between 1890 and 1910, increasing from 2,000 to about 12,000 over those 2 decades. And industry was a big reason why. But ours is not the reason why. Ours is to talk bricks. Coffeyville flirted with the pro baseball team as early as 1896 in a short season independent circuit, and in a more ambitious way in 1902. But the attraction was anything but mutual. The Missouri League club it went into the 02 season with abandoned the burg for Chanute up in Neosho County in June, having gone 9-30 to that point. So yes, the Bricks had some heavy lifting to do in terms of winning fans when they arrived 4 years later. In February of 06, O.H. Baldwin, once a Coffeyville resident who'd gone on to Pittsburgh, Kansas, came to town as a representative of the Kansas State League. He asked Coffeyvillians if they were interested in ponying up 100 bones and providing a decent park for the team to play 2 short seasons. And by spring, Coffeyville's citizens had answered in the affirmative. The players on the Bricks roster were a solid foundation for success, as the team had good building blocks in Ed Foster, who led the league with 44 runs, and Harry Womack, who went 10-0 on the mound. But by mid-season, the Bricks were laid up. On June 22nd, the Topeka State Journal ran an item saying that, despite some of the best men being knocked out and unable to play the game, Coffeyville's club was not in danger of folding. The paper reported, the fans feel that when the team is strengthened, Coffeyville will be able to finish the season in the front rank. The fans were right. The Bricks floated up to a 58-50 record, good for 4th place in the 8-team loop. But the Kansas State League folded after that season, and future Coffeyville teams took on similarly industrial but less Masonic monikers, such as the Refiners and the Glassblowers, molding the club's identities like so much clay into an oven. and that's how the Bricks failed to rebound. Now, on to the question for next time. Which of these teams knew how to deal with the pest in the minors of yesteryear? A, the Vermilion Venom Men. B, the Sweetwater Swatters. C, the Duluth Trappers. Want to know the answer? Catch it or kill it. Or tune for the next Ghosts of the Miners. But for now, you'll have to excuse me. My producer Ben Hill wants to go water skiing, and I've got to fill the bathtub.
Well, a massive congratulations to your friend and ours, Josh Jackson, who just recorded/aired episode 100 of Ghosts of the Miners. That means Ghosts of the Miners has been around for almost a quarter of the episodes of the show before the show. And it still, to me, feels like, we got this fun new segment, Ghosts of the Miners. We're 100 episodes into it now.
I know we have to introduce Ghosts. It's like, make sure you stay. I guess we didn't do that this week, but you guys know that it's going to be there, that Josh is going to be there for you. And I went several hours to spend time with Josh, but you guys get to do that every week through Ghosts of the Miners. So
it's just the greatest.
Lucky
you.
you.
He works his tail off on Ghosts of the Miners. We may see some tweaks to Ghosts of the Miners. Josh he's constantly percolating. I'm percolating, Jerry. And he's got some new concepts. So we may see some fun, exciting new stuff with Ghosts of the Miners, but 100 episodes. And when you think about, 100 episodes, they're all roughly 4 minutes long, whatever it is. That's 400 minutes of Josh's life. And he probably spends 5 times each episode just writing the script. That doesn't even count the research. That doesn't count. Yeah, exactly. Like Josh works his friggin' tail off on Ghosts of the Miners. So a huge thanks to him. Huge thanks also to Billy Harner of the Brooklyn Cyclones. I'm already looking at, mid-August weekends of next year and wondering when I can nail down a trip to Brooklyn to be in the house for a Seinfeld night. And before we get out of here, no Benjamin Hill, obviously, for our promo, which generally closes out. But we do have game promos to close out this week's episode of the show before the show. MILB.TV and MLB.TV, of course, where you can stream and watch the best in minor league baseball. Sam, who you got? What are you watching this week?
Yeah, so we were talking earlier about guys moving up to Double-A, and Ethan Salas and Dylan Crewsand have already debuted as of this recording on Wednesday. Paul Skenesand hasn't. He's scheduled to make his Double-A debut on Saturday. So that game starts at 6 p.m. For Altoona. They will be going up against the Akron Rubber Ducks and some Cleveland Guardians prospects. Juan Brito, the number 6 prospect in the Guardian system, a guy I'm pretty excited about and interested to see how he goes up against Skenes. Brito has a really good hit tool, so that could be iron sharpening iron on that one. It might not be a long one. Like I said, he's only gone 2 innings at most so far in the minor leagues, as the Pirates are just trying to get him into the rhythm of starting, but not trying to waste too many bullets after he pitched so much at LSU in the spring. But anytime you get to see Paul Skenesand and check in on his velocity and check in on the slider, it could be really, really special stuff. So tune in to that one Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern time, Akron against Altoona, and catch you Paul Skenesand Double-A debut. Tyler, what are you watching?
So a guy who is now toward the back end of the top 100, but has come with some of the loftiest prospect comparisons and expectations really of all time, and kind of quietly, at least in terms of our discussion this week, was promoted to AAA. Yankees outfield prospect Jason Dominguez is now up with the AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders. Did get a hit in his AAA debut. He is now at the AAA level 3 for 6 through game number 1. Knocked his first contest out of the way in the International League, and he and his team will be home taking on Lehigh Valley for the rest of the week. 3 for 6, 3 runs batted in, and a run scored. Terrific start to the AAA stay for Jason Dominguez. It's been a little while since he's been kind of that guy who drew the Mike Trout and Bo Jackson and Mickey Mantle comparisons, but what's crazy about it is he's 20 years old. Like, Jason Dominguez is still ahead of the curve for where you would expect a 20-year-old talented prospect to be. step away from the big leagues now, and something for Yankees fans to be excited about in what has been obviously a kind of challenging year by Yankee standards. So give Jason Dominguez a watch. And this weekend, he will be taking on the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs along with the rest of those Rail Riders teammates on MILB.TV. What a fun episode, this week's episode of the show before the show. Huge thanks to Billy Harner. Huge thanks to Josh Jackson, of course, for stopping by. And for the absentee Benjamin Hill and our own Sam Dykstra. My name is Tyler Mon, and we'll catch you next week.